Hi, Lindsay.
Hi, Justin.
Here we are for another podcast episode. What are we talking about today?
So we have some lessons learned with Justin today, and we're going to cover the importance of identifying risk on a project and how that aligns to our core values.
I know. So we talked about these topics ahead of time, and I know that risk identification and risk mitigation may not be the thing that people wake up in the morning and want to hear about, but stick with me on this one. I think there are some good lessons learned that we'll talk through, and it's all in the spirit of protecting your product and protecting your business. So this is a good investment to listen today.
Good. Let's dive in. This sounds like a tricky area, though. So tell me what you mean by risk on a project.
All right, so every project has risk. It doesn't matter if your project is putting up your Christmas tree or repaving a road or building a piece of software. There's inherent risk to every project that's being undertaken. So my specialty, our specialty as a company is in technology and building web, mobile, data, automation, systems integration sort of technology solutions. So risk in my world really pertains to those things that put the completion date at risk, that put the quality of what we're producing at risk, things that could jeopardize the reputation of our clients or reputation of our business at risk. So that's what I mean by risk in association to a project.
Perfect. Now, remind everyone listening of APG's core values for those that do not know what that is.
So we are talking about aligning risk identification to our core values. So our two core values are stewardship and empathy. Stewardship means being good caretakers of our clients' resources. So every time a client does a project with us, they have set aside a budget, or we've helped them create what their budget should be that pays for us as people and pays for infrastructure that hosts their applications that we're building. And they also have set asides around the operations of whatever we are building. Empathy pertains to our ability to walk a mile in the shoes of the people who will be using the product that we're building. So that may be if we're designing an app for a pizza company where their users can order pizza from the app, we need to understand, get in the minds of who's going to be doing that, who's most likely to do that, what are their motivations, and what do they consider success criteria. So empathy and stewardship are really our form the North Star that center us on most of the decisions we make as a company and certainly on our clients' projects.
Absolutely. How do the two overlap?
So it's interesting. So risks and our core values overlap in a couple of different ways. So let's look at stewardship first. Again, that means we want to be good stewards of our clients' resources. If there are risks to a project that could send the project be over budget, so let's say that there is, we've missed something from a scope perspective, like this application will not work without this module, and we completely missed that module. Well, that's going to put their budget and their timeline at risk. I have not been a good steward of their resources if my discovery wasn't thorough and we did not define scope correctly. So I could totally derail their budget and their timeline and put their reputation at risk just by missing a simple but required module of whatever we're building. When we look at empathy, same sort of thing. We're building an application. Let's say it's for a bank and the bank needs it to be in the hands of small business owners. Well, if we design something that isn't intuitive to the small business owner who's intended to use this banking product, then they log in and they just shut down. They're going to say, well, this is confusing. I want to take my business elsewhere. We could literally cost a bank millions of dollars in deposits just by designing a poor user interface. And so there's a lot of pressure on us to identify these risks and do everything we can to mitigate them because they will have a definite impact on all of our success. That's why I love our core values. They don't just mean a lot to those of us who work at APG Emerging Tech. When we infuse those into the decisions we're making for our clients and with our clients, everyone wins.
What would you say are the most common types of risk on any project?
I look at it in terms of really people, process, and technology. That's an overused triumvirate of phrases, but from a people perspective, I think that it's an inclination, especially for lower budget projects or maybe startups, to say, I'm going to hire a developer. I just need a developer to get to build this thing. It's an MVP, a minimum viable project. We can do it with one guy or one gal. Let's do it. Well, guess what? If that person gets sick, they win the lottery, they get hit by a bus, your entire MVP is out the window. And that is assuming a lot of risk to put all your eggs in that one basket. But we see it all the time. I love to have redundancy on a project for that reason, not just because we want to bill more or charge a client more. It's really to hedge off the risk of someone inevitably taking a vacation or inevitably getting sick. We're in the times of post peak COVID. It wasn't that long ago to where people were out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, if not on an incubator. So things happen, and you have to think about that on every single project. I think so. That's the people aspect. Procedurally, there are risks if you don't have consensus among people who are participating in the project. Certainly the delivery team, but also your business stakeholders. If you don't involve everyone up front in the vision for what we're building, someone could pipe up later on and say, oh, what about me? You forgot my requirements. Well, guess what that is going to do? That's going to prolong the time it takes to accommodate those requirements, make redesigns, recode the system. There are so many things you need to do from a people perspective fosters an inclusive environment, and people feel like they've been heard. They buy into the vision at each step of the way. So we're really adept at that because we've seen what happens when you're not. Yeah. So that was people, process, and then the technology front. We are very, very keen on looking at platforms that scale well and also are right for, I guess you would say, staying power, for lack of a better term. We don't like building in brand new platforms that don't have a history. We've all seen in recent years the new AI platforms. Every day there's another startup that says they have AI for this, AI for that. And companies are making big investments to integrate with those. I would caution and say, look for the ones that have staying power. Staying power means they have a lot of clients, they're well funded, they don't have drama in the news cycle. We want to look at that tech stack and make sure there's stability there, because building software is a big investment. Even though it's digital and it's in a screen or happening behind the scenes, it could cost as much as building a physical structure. And just like physical structures, they require maintenance and support. It's not build it and leave it there. You don't build a house and not clean it afterwards or not replace the roof. You've got to maintain that thing for it to keep standing, and software is the same way. So those three categories are really the areas of risk I think pertain to every one of our projects.
Yeah, I mean, companies are not going to want to dump that much money into a project and it not last more than a year.
Correct.
Or 2 years. I mean, obviously, like you said, there's going to be some maintenance and stuff, but you want that return on your investment.
Yes, 100%. And I think that's the other key point is it's not build it once and it's done. Just like a physical structure, it requires maintenance and upgrades.
When you've identified the risk, what's the next step to avoid them?
Well, identifying them is the biggest part, but I think it's incumbent on any good project team to think through what are possible mitigations. What are things we can do to avoid this risk ever happening? So on that people front, I'd use that as an example again. Instead of having one developer on the project and putting all of our hopes and wishes and dreams in that one developer, maybe it makes sense to have another one that's shadowing them as a part-time person or as a full-time person. I mean, if we can figure out a way to get creative with budgeting, two people can actually work faster than just one. And you have that redundancy if one of them were to get sick or to go on vacation or a honeymoon or you name it. Those things have all happened and will happen, and they should happen. So I think just being keenly aware of what are some possible things we can do to hedge that risk and reduce the likelihood of it happening is what we have to do. And that's part of being a good steward of our clients' resources.
Yeah. And really look at that and not just assume that this is going to happen and stuff like that. But I mean, realistically, try to plan for those things.
That's right. And I think also it's key to be transparent with the risks that have been identified. We don't hide those things from our clients. We make sure that they are aware of it and they are aware that we're on top of it. I think it's really important because they're the one making the big investment. They understand what could possibly throw this thing sideways, whatever we're building, and to have faith that we've got it under control.
Bringing it back to our core values, how do you look at risk identification within your own business?
So our business is not that different from anyone else's. We have people and we have processes and we have technology. And so there is risk in each one of those. I think that one of the things that we do is we build a positive environment that is open, it's collaborative. There's not a fear factor, there's no anxiety. When someone has something on the radar that may have them out of the workplace, they communicate it broadly and widely. Certainly, I've been out of the office, and Lindsay, I'm like, "Hey, Lindsay, I need someone to back me up when I'm out of the office. Would you mind checking my inbox or checking my voicemail for me, just in case anything blows up?" Just having that wherewithal to not operate in a vacuum is part of our culture. We that's us being empathetic for one another. You need a vacation, Lindsay. I need a
Right.
vacation. We all need to get away from the office now and then. And I think too, even from a project and delivery perspective, I may not be assigned to your project, but I have an awareness of what's going on. And that's one of the benefits of being a smaller company. We can do that. And I think that's one of the benefits that our clients should appreciate compared to hiring a 10,000 person or 25,000 person consulting firm is we're small enough to where we have that redundancy. Just after this recording this afternoon, I was told I need to jump in on a call for a project that I'm not involved with, but I have enough awareness to jump in, be productive, and I look forward to helping my colleague with that need. So I think that's just comes back to our core values and what the culture we want to create here and that we're delivering. It helps our clients in the end as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll elaborate even more sitting over here in my seat that we have Slack, we
Mhm.
do huddles, we do stand ups, we do all of those things. And it's that communication amongst the team. It's not just that high level, oh, the bosses know what's going on with the project.
No,
It's that they are truly immersed in it and they know and they care and they want to be in it. Because
that's right.
it may be that one of us needs to step out or we're sick and stuff like that. Like Justin was just explaining that it's all hands on deck all
That's
the
right.
time. And
Well, and as a smaller team too, by us staying aware, I'm listening to all the other projects and what's going on with those. I can bring my expertise from the past and things I've experienced to the table to where they say they may have a particular challenge. I can chime in on it and say, have you thought about this? And that is all about looking at risk and looking for ways to mitigate the risk or of things that could throw the project off its rails. And that is something inherent to our culture. I love it.
yeah. And I mean, sometimes I think as we're in projects, you're so close to it sometimes.
Hmm.
So us having that advantage too of a small team of you being able to step in, raise your hand and go, hey, have you thought of this?
That's
Hey,
correct.
this would this possibly be the case here? So that's huge.
That's right.
Huge.
That's right. So I told you risk sounded kind of dry at the beginning. It may still sound a little bit dry, but it's important. We have to think through these things. And I hope that some of what we've talked about today are helpful for folks.
Yeah. So there's some lessons learned from Justin and I today, and we appreciate you tuning in.
Thank you.